Coming up on Network Africa, militia group executes 17 people in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after 3 of its members were killed in a clash with a rival militia. Police in Mauritania arrest man believed to be behind the jihadist prison escape. And Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga vows to continue with protests over high cost of living and alleged election malpractices. Hello and welcome to the program this week. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin the program with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris arrived at Kotoka International Airport in Ghana on Sunday, the first stop of a three-nation tour of Africa. The visit is part of a diplomatic push by the Biden administration to deepen ties with the continent amidst competition from China and Russia.
I'm very excited about the future of Africa. I'm very excited about the impact of the future of Africa on the rest of the world, including the United States of America. When I look at what is happening on this continent, and the fact that the median age is 19 years old, and what that tells us about the growth of opportunity, of innovation, of possibilities, I see in all of that great opportunity, not only for the people of this continent, but the people of the world.
Kamala Harris is traveling with her husband, Douglas Emhoff, after their stay in Accra, Ghana. They will head to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and Lusaka, Zambia. The diplomatic trip is expected to end on April the 2nd. U.S. officials says Paul Rusesabagina, who was portrayed as a hero in the film Hotel Rwanda, was released from a Rwandan prison after his sentence was commuted following intense diplomacy by the United States. Rusesabagina was sentenced in September 2021 to 25 years over his ties to a group opposed to Rwandan President Paul Kagame that has an armed wing. U.S. President Joe Biden issued a statement welcoming Rusesabagina's release and thanking the governments of Rwanda and Qatar for making it possible. Rusesabagina will remain in Rwanda for a couple of days before traveling to Doha and then to the United States. Meanwhile, a Tanzanian scholar says China adopted a democratic system that balances economic, social, and political aspects, and African countries which want to sustain their socio-economic and ecological development can benefit from the Chinese experience.
First and foremost, the country has not adopted the Western type of democratic governance because it strictly believes in diversity and henceforth the Chinese characteristics. Secondly, it adopted a democratic system which balances economic, social, and political aspect, while realizing that they are interrelated and depend on each other. And thirdly, the social and economic development process has been inclusive to the extent that extreme poverty has been eradicated within a short period of 4 decades. These attributes of China democratic governance system, coupled with this modernization policy, are key ingredients for sustaining the development process.
Speaking at a parallel session of the Second International Forum on Democracy in Beijing, Humphrey Mushi, the director of the Center for Chinese Studies at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, commends China's democratic system for its uniqueness, balanced promotion, and inclusiveness. Mushi says the African countries needed to learn from China to achieve sustainable socioeconomic and ecological development.
To other stories now, the Kodeko militia group has executed 17 people it had captured in the Jugu territory in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. According to local media, the victims were passengers aboard 4 vehicles heading to Mgungwalu in Ituri province. They were taken hostage after 3 Codeco members were killed in a clash with a rival militia group. The Codeco, a militia that claims to protect the Lendu farming community in Ituri, is one of the many armed groups operating in the restive mineral-rich region. Among those taken hostage was a pregnant woman. However, local authorities are yet to comment on the attack. And police in Mauritania have arrested a man believed to be the organizer of the escape of 4 jihadist detainees from the central prison in the capital, Nouakchott, 3 weeks ago. According to a statement, a team from the General Directorate of National Security had arrested Mohammed T., known as Abu Osama, in the city. They said he had orchestrated the escape of 4 prisoners convicted of terrorist crimes and that he would be brought to justice after an investigation, but gave no further information about the man. For 5 days after the 4 men broke out of the prison on the 5th of March, one of them was detained alive while the other 3 were killed during attempts to recapture them. The escape of the 4 men had been a blow to Mauritania's fight against Islamist radicals. And over in Kenya, the country's opposition leader has vowed to continue with protests despite police warning they will intensify crackdowns on what they consider as illegal protests. The protests started last week and turned violent in several opposition strongholds. Opposition leader Raila Odinga said that they would be held every Monday and Thursday to rally the country against the high cost of living and alleged electoral malpractices. But the head of police, Japhet Kume, has said that he had not approved any demonstrations and warned of mass arrests if they continue.
Kenya's riot police are on the streets of the capital, Nairobi, in a bid to prevent protests called by the opposition Raila Odinga over the high cost of living and alleged election malpractices. There's also heavy police presence in Kibera and Mathare, the largest informal settlements in the city, where protesters are being blocked from moving into the city center.
We people, we are suffering due to this government. They gave us false promises that they will lower the life down, life will change, hunger will go down. But now, even you can't afford that hunger. In fact, even that hunger of 20 bob, now you are buying it 35 shilling.
Shops have been closed in downtown Nairobi as business owners fear looting. In the western city of Kisumu, an opposition stronghold, tear gas has been fired to disperse crowds of protesters who were being led by their local governor. Police say they will take pictures of protesters and file charges against them for participating in illegal protests. Meanwhile, the Kenya Railways Corporation has suspended all its commuter train operations in the capital, Nairobi, ahead of anti-government protests. A statement by the Kenya Railways management attributed the decision to unavoidable circumstances. In the meantime, Kenya's Interior Minister is proposing changes to security laws that will make it more difficult for people to hold protests. The Constitution gives Kenyans the right to assemble, demonstrate and picket, but the participants must be peaceful and unarmed. The changes proposed by the ministry seeks to limit the number of people holding protests at any particular occasion and makes protesters pay the costs of cleaning up. Raila Odinga, who lost to Ruto in August poll, urges more nationwide protest as he attempts to harness dissatisfaction with the president.
Let's get more on this as we bring in Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati, who joins me virtually from Nairobi, the capital. Hello, Cyrus. Could you speak to us about these latest protests and the warning from the police?
Well, the former Prime Minister, rather the opposition leader, just completed the rallies where he had the entire afternoon, this afternoon. And he said they are going to extend the protest to 2 or 3 days a week. Like now he said they are going to have more protests on Thursday and Friday, which is going to strain the government in so many ways, because if you look at Nairobi today, it was literally closed. The CBD of Nairobi, most roads to come into Nairobi were closed. The public service vehicles were not in operation. I mean, the amount of revenue being lost is huge that you can't, as a government, if you're in power, you can't actually withstand that.
Why is the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, leading this protest, and why is he adamant? I know that he's been talking about, high cost of living and, fighting for the people, but I'm sure there are other people that are also aggrieved because of this situation. Why is he the one leading the protests?
Oh, that has been a question by many. Why is he the one leading? But you see now, he's seen to be the more popular guy among the poor, among the majority. And since he lost the election, he never recognized, Ruto as the president. So he's been all along leading the onslaught against the Ruto government, saying he made false promises, which propelled him to power because he came out as a hustler, defender in a way. But then now Odinga is coming out to say that you lied to the masses. Now it's time that if you can't lower the cost of living, we can say like last week we had the cost of electricity going up by almost 60%. So, and the Ruto had promised that it's going down. So Odinga is actually going up with that issue and saying you lied to the masses.
So Mr. Odinga has also mentioned electoral malpractices as part of, why he's leading protests, not only against, the high cost of living. Does this mean that he's still not going to accept defeat to his opponent, William Ruto?
He has, since the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court made a ruling regarding the elections, Odinga never recognized Ruto as the president. Up to now, he's saying Ruto stole the election, so he can't recognize him that. And he's insisting on the same. He said Ruto corrupted the system in a way to manipulate the system to make sure he won the election. So up to now, up to today, he's saying that he's demanding for the opening of the electoral server, which was keeping the results of the election. So everyone is saying, you have been overtaken by events, but he says, if you open the server and I find out that I lost democratically, I'll give up. But that is not possible for now as we see it's coming.
So Kenya's Interior Ministry is proposing changes to security laws, that will make it more difficult for people to hold protests. Speak to us more about these laws. It would seem that, the government is trying to ensure that protests do not take place anymore.
Similar attempts had been made almost 2-3 years ago by the previous government, but they failed. The courts actually dismissed the same attempts to amend the constitution in order to come up with regulations to regulate how protesters should behave. The constitution is very explicit that everyone has a right to picket or protest in one way or the other peacefully. So the word peacefully is a relative word, so that's what police usually do. Because with the protests we have seen in the past, we usually find out that the police are the ones who come and try to disrupt the entire protest. So those are just semantics. Those are, I think, the minute the government is trying to use such kind of means because they have the numbers in parliament to kind of muzzle or rather to control the protests that are coming, because they know that in the coming days more protests are going to come for sure.
So how long does it take to, make changes to these laws? Because right now the Kenyan law does not require police approval for protests. The Constitution gives Kenyans the right to assemble, as you have just said, and to demonstrate peacefully, though. Why is there so much violence from police officers towards protesters if the Constitution allows them to go out and express their views about certain issues?
That's the question everyone is asking himself, because the police are very clear. Even the regulations which are in place now, they say that as a protester, you actually notify the police that you want to hold a protest maybe in 3 days' time. It's upon the police to come and provide you security. But now, since last week, the police have been saying, the protests are illegal, so we can't allow them, which actually constitutionally they're not mandated to do that. Everyone, that's why the Odinga and his group are coming out to say police can't regulate that, cannot be the ones who are saying that you are banning the protest or allowing the protest. Your job is just to provide security once you have been notified. We are seeing is as a way of trying to get a leeway to muzzle future protests in one way or the other.
Right. Thank you so much, Cyrus, for your time and for the update on that situation in Kenya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Still to come on the program. Nigerian drummer nurtures children to preserve use of local instruments. Details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Sudan's military chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has reaffirmed that the army would be placed under the authority of a new civilian-led government as talks on military reforms began over the weekend as part of a lengthy transition to civilian rule. According to General al-Burhan, the process of security and military reform is a long and complicated one that cannot be bypassed. The army's al-Burhan took power in 2021 in a coup that scuttled a short-lived democratic transition after President al-Bashir was ousted in 2019. The military and political parties signed an agreement in December to set up a civilian-led transitional government to oversee elections in 2 years. However, pro-democracy protest groups opposed the agreement, demanding the inclusion of transitional justice and security reforms. Reform of the security forces is a major point of tension in the discussions on the political process launched in December, which calls for the withdrawal of generals from politics once a civilian government is put in place. In other news now, the Pan-African Parliament has commemorated its day under the theme Reflection on the Journey. As part of this special day, the Pan-African Parliament organized a series of events and discussions, bringing together African leaders, parliamentarians, and other stakeholders. These events provided an opportunity to reflect on the progress made and the challenges that lie ahead. Meanwhile, the Pan-African Parliament President, Chief Fortune Chirumbira, criticized the African Union, citing a lack of support for the Pan-African Parliament. Our reporter, Innocent Semusa, has details.
Delegates from all over Africa gathered in the Pan-African Parliament PAP chamber to commemorate PAP Day, focusing on the theme, Reflecting on the Journey. The session was presided over by the President of the Pan-African Parliament, Chief Fortune Charambira, who highlighted the role of the Pan-African Parliament in shaping the future of Africa. He says he's, however, not happy with inadequate support the body is getting from the African Union.
I think we need to recognize the status of the Parliament and give it its due recognition. And each organ has to operate within its boundaries.
Even within the House, the members of Parliament recognize that the journey of progress is still a long one.
Even our attendance at the committee meetings are affected. So I believe we need reforms so that the members will be given the necessary tools to perform. I want to draw the attention of the AU reform team to the sacrosanct objective of the AU, which is to promote continental integration. And I want to stress again, the AU was established to promote continental integration. Now I see this objective stalling.
The Pan-African Parliament Day is also an opportunity for member states to renew their commitment to the integration and development of the continent.
There is a lot to celebrate because our independence emanated from Pan-Africanism. The enthusiasm that Nkrumah and others got, they got from the inspiration from Marcus Messiah, Garvey, and W.E.B. Du Bois. So we have to celebrate this day. Pan-Africanism as an ideology needs to be promoted and instituted in our school for our young people to know that we have a cause to fight. Our unity, our integration, our progress all relies on Pan-Africanism.
Today is a great day. This is Africa Liberation Day. It's an African day, and it's an AU day. And it's a day when Africans should celebrate to show to the world that they are free and they have total freedom.
The Pan-African Parliament, PAP, was established in 2004 by the African Union, AU, with the aim of promoting unity, solidarity, and cooperation among African countries. However, the establishment of PAP has been met with several challenges. PAP has limited legislative powers, and its decisions are not binding on member states. This limits its ability to influence policy and make meaningful contributions to the development of the continent. From Pretoria, South Africa, Innocent Samos, Channel Television News.
And finally, on the program, Nigerian artist Adebayo Ayodeji is targeting children to play traditional instruments like drums, which he is worried could become extinct and erase an important aspect of the culture in Africa's most populous country. His twice-monthly drumming workshops in the megacity of Lagos sees parents bring children to learn how to play drums and understand their significance in African tradition.
In Nigeria, the drum is not only a musical instrument, but is used in events and rituals like communicating with deities and summoning meetings in villages, just like a telephone. But less of this is now seen because of technology.
We are using this to revive our culture, our cultural values. Most of them they've not seen this kind of drum before. They've not played it before, and this is an opportunity to introduce them to it. So we're using it to at least do a kind of evangelism of art.
Nigeria holds an African Drum Festival every April, hosting drummers from around the world, showcasing the beauty and sounds of the drum. Deborah Chat-Dauda is a Nigerian-American researcher and a Fulbright Fogarty Fellow living in Nigeria. She brought her son to the workshop.
If we work together to ensure that our children have access to activities like this, that our parents and the community as a whole comes together to ensure that we can, as a people, contribute to our culture and our heritage. Culture is fluid, it's always transforming, and we have to have ways where we can document, we can also archive, and also incorporate our children in what we do.
From less than 10 children the first time Ayodeji started the workshop, he says they've grown to over 30 children attending each session, and all by word of mouth.
I'm glad that I was able to experience and being able to play those kind of drums. And I remember he bought me one of those drums when I was younger to play on, and then I broke it.
When you have 10 children playing with you, those 10 children will have friends. So they will invite their friend. Imagine 10 inviting two friends, that makes us 30. And by the time they come, we invite their parents to come and see the performance. They see the positive of what we're doing, and then they let their children join us.
The 42-year-old has been playing the drum professionally for over 15 years and also runs a troupe of dancers and drummers comprising of children he took off the street.
Indeed, catching them young. Well, that's the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Jackie Rogers.